Oh no, not the laptop. You're a good girl though. So, this is my official Hunger Games video. I read it on Saturday. I read it Saturday. I stayed up all night to read it. And the first time I tried making this video, I really didn't like how it turned out because it was just me rambling. So then I made a list of pros and cons. See? Hunger Games video. Sorry if it's as terrible as my first time around. I'm gonna try my best. So we'll see how that goes. So I'm not going to go in order of pros and cons. I'm going to mention a few pros, then switch over to the cons, and then finish my pros. I think. Okay. So my first pro was excellent storytelling, fast-paced, too fast at times, intriguing. Okay, so what I mean by that is that it was a really good story, and Suzanne Collins is a really great storyteller, the same way that J.K. Rowling is a really great storyteller. And you want to stick by with the characters and find out what happens next because the storytelling is so strong. And I was so intrigued, and I was so into it that I ended up staying up all night so I could read the book, like, all night. I started reading at, like, maybe 11, and I stayed up until almost 7 in the morning so I could read the book. And then I was really tired at work, and it was a bad day. So another pro was Katniss's characterization, and I know that everyone favors Peeta. I'm going to get to him after Katniss, but I really, really like Katniss's character, and I think she's really well-rounded and well-written and believable. So one of the things that I really liked about Katniss, not that it's like a good thing to have as a person, but I think it was written really well into her, is that she's not very trusting. And when you think about her life, she hasn't been able to trust anyone. She trusted her dad, and then he died. She trusted her mom, and then her mom kind of gave up on her. She can't trust her government to protect her. She can't trust nature to provide for her. She can't trust her hunting skills, and that every single day that she's going to come home with enough food to eat. She doesn't have a lot in her life that she can trust. And then she gets thrown into the Hunger Games where you're out to fight to the death, and there's Peeta, and he wants her to trust him, and she can't, because she's never been able to trust anyone or anything in her entire life except for herself. So she's always been super solitary. That being said, she's also incredibly loyal and kind, and that comes from having to take on a mothering role to her sister at a very young age, because she was like 11, I think, when her dad died, and she had to come take over the home. And I think that was really well written, the way that she stands up for Prim. I mean, let's just take a moment to think about that, how strong you have to be as a person and how loving she really is to volunteer for the Hunger Games to protect her sister. And then there's that whole thing with Rue, where she takes on that same mothering role because she can see her sister in this little girl. I also wrote that she's kind and clever. And then some bad traits were that she's flighty, cold, and stubborn. And that all relates back into her inability to trust. But I think it's really interesting because on the one hand, she's really loving and she obviously cares for her sister and her family. And just think about her actions and the way that she presents herself. She cares a lot about everyone. And when she gets that gift from Rue's district, I just thought it was so beautiful the way that she looked up and thanked them. And at the same time, she's also, you know, when they're at the lake and at the end of the book and they've just found out that they can't both make it, she's ready to draw her arrow at Peeta because she thinks he's about to stab her, because she can't trust him because she doesn't know how to trust. And so that being said about Katniss, I want to move on to a con, which is Peeta's love for Katniss. I'm going to read my notes and then I'm going to elaborate. Never spoken, only observed, willing to risk life. Why? No build-up, it doesn't make sense. And that's basically how I feel. Because at a very young age, Peeta saved Katniss's life, and she's eternally grateful for this. But he does it out of love for her. And while they've known each other their entire lives, seeing each other around the same village, district, and stuff, they've never actually spoken to each other. And when he declares his love for her, it's like he legitimately loves her. And when they get into the Hunger Game, he risks his life for her multiple times, and I don't understand why. There's no build-up between them. They don't know each other as people. They've only watched each other from afar. And while they do have a connection and it's obvious, there isn't any substance to it. And I really enjoyed the romance because, I mean, we were supposed to, and I did, and it was very sweet. And I liked that they were there to support each other. And I liked the bond that they created during the games. But they don't have anything before that, really. They have that one interaction they had when they were like 11 or 5 or something, and then nothing. And while it's all good that they've watched each other and that far away they seem to like each other, like, it's like with me and Aladdin. Like, I think he's really neat, and I think he's cute, and I really, really like to get to know him, but I don't know him. I don't know anything about him. And if I did, I might not even like him. So I'm not going to run around saying I'm in love with him. I'm just going to, like, you know, I'm not going to risk my life for him. And while Peeta seems like a genuinely really kind person, this whole romance doesn't really make sense to me. My notes kind of went downhill. I don't really understand what I'm trying to say here. Con and talk about the games, and my notes say too easy in a way, making it to the end, making a fool of the government. Okay, and I know what you're thinking, the games weren't too easy, but it almost kind of was, because 1 second they've just begun the games, and then the next it's like it's over, and Katniss spent a great deal of it hiding in trees. And it was horrible. And, you know, like, I could tell, reading it, I know that it was torture. And it was horrible to read, especially Cato's death. But it was almost too easy, like the way that she made it to the end. And I don't know if it's because I read it so quickly, so it seemed like it was happening quickly, but I thought there would be more of an everyday, I don't know. And then, once they've made it to the end, Katniss and Peeta, when they took, in the back of my mind, I knew that they were going to take away that new rule saying that 2 people can win if they're from the same district. But when it happened, I didn't know how they were going to get out of it. And the whole double suicide thing, it seemed too easy because, like, you know, I don't know. I just thought there would be more. Yeah, okay, no words are coming out right. You also have this breakdown in gender roles that I really liked because, I mean, you have Katniss, who's a hunter, and it's totally acceptable in her society. And then in the capital, everyone is just wearing these absurd outfits and tons of makeup. And, like, Sin is a guy, and it's totally fine that he wears makeup and is a stylist and stuff, and the government pays him and supports him. So while socially, I feel like they're a lot more advanced in our society, and they haven't really talked about sexual orientation or anything, but I feel like that's something that would be, like, regardless of your sexual orientation, it would be accepted in that society. So I just think it's really strange that on the one hand you have this really powerful and horrendous government, and on the other hand, all these social barriers have gone down, and I think it might be in response to the government being so overpowering. And so, none of these words are coming out right. So Peeta, I really liked him because we're supposed to like Peeta, but I didn't think he was a very strong character, and that's for the same reason that I dislike the romance between Katniss and Peeta. And it's because we don't really know anything about him, except that he makes bread and is really kind. he's almost, I'm really struggling with this because on one hand, he's really clever and, like, going in with the careers and stuff, and obviously he's smart, but on the other hand, he seems kind of simple because so yeah, I hope this is something they expand on in the next book instead of it being so plot driven. I hope we learn more about his character because he seems pretty one-dimensional to me at the moment. And since everyone loves him so much, I'm sure there's more to him, but I'm not really super impressed by him at the end of the Hunger Games. And his anger at Katniss for not really being in love with him. Dude, you don't know anything about her. You had your first kiss when you were in the Hunger Games, which is about killing one another. Like, seriously? Seriously? You're gonna get mad at her because she did everything that she could to survive? I mean, she nursed you back to health. You were gonna die out there multiple times, and she saved your ass. And yeah, you saved her too. Good job. But that's the point. You were at war. You were at war. And now you're all pissed off because, like, she doesn't love you and shit, but she doesn't even know you, and you don't know her, so why are you so upset about this? I mean, just, God, why can't you just take a chill pill and get to know her in the real world? And yes, well, I know the real world isn't all that cool to begin with. It's better off than being in the Hunger Games. Just shit, man. And my last pro was Rue, and I think she was a really, really great character, and I think she did a lot for Katniss's characterization, and she did a lot to move the plot along, and yeah, I just think she was really, really good. Other things I want to talk about, the dogs at the end, the wild mutant dogs, I'm hoping they bring those up in Catching Fire, because we never really learned anything about them. Like, we learned that they had the eyes of the other contestants and that they were based on the other contestants, but I want to know if they were the other contestants, like if they somehow, you know, did that. The honorable mention is Kato's death being so drawn out and horrible, and Glimmer's death being so horrible, and stuff. Yeah.